And we are live. I am joined today by Greg Shaw. Greg, what's going on, buddy?
Man, just plowing through, enjoying the 3 day, just like everyone else. Well, everyone
I,
else, yeah. I don't know. I don't know if the U.S. guys get Labor Day off or not. I'm not sure.
I don't. I think they have a holiday this month, but I don't know that it's Labor Day, and I don't know that it's this weekend. I
Yeah,
wasn't even sure if it was cross Canada. I know that some of the days, like I know that like Family Day for us is like different from Alberta and stuff like that. So I wasn't sure. I wasn't gonna sort of say happy long weekend before I sort of knew if people had to go to work tomorrow. But yeah, same thing. Just kicking back on the weekend, just enjoying some toys, playing with toys, catching up on some TV and stuff.
exactly.
Um, did you watch Rings of Power?
I watched the first one.
Hmm.
Enjoyed it a lot. I've been like a long-term Tolkien nut like for ages. So, but yeah. So I really enjoyed it. I mean, I tried to slog my way through the appendices a couple times over the years. It's like reading someone else's Coles notes, right? More or less.
Hmm.
But so, it's, I think what they're doing with it is really good. From what they can, they got to kind of create their own narrative out of this sort of like word salad of backstory.
Hmm.
So yeah, so far I haven't seen the second one yet, but people tell me the second one's even better than the first. So you?
I would say so. We're not going to get too deep into it, but yeah, I would agree. I really liked it. I was having sort of a brief conversation with somebody who's has sort of decades of sort of dissecting and digging through Tolkien stuff,
Yeah.
and they really liked it.
Yep.
I've read the main books kind of once through when I was much younger, but loved all the movies.
Yep.
I, so I don't really have the background to say, oh, this is accurate or this isn't accurate, or how things should be or what characters should do or shouldn't do.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to it. They've effectively said that they're going to do 5 seasons, and they don't really care whether people like it or not. That was Jeff. This is sort of Jeff Bezos' kind of pet project, where my understanding is like his son absolutely loves Tolkien and Lord of the Rings, and so he bought the rights to do this almost as like a gift, as a gesture to his son, I guess,
Right.
um, which is pretty cool. And it makes me think too that it's not something that he's just throwing money at to throw money at it. It does make me think that he cares about it, that it's something that means
Yeah.
something to him. So
Yeah. And,
I'm optimistic for it.
I mean, like when you watch it, you can tell that, the people who are involved in it, it's not just, they're not just hanging a medieval or a fantasy adventure story on the name. You can tell that
Hmm.
these people really have an investment into it. One sort of a public service notice, and this has helped me a lot because, again, like you, I've read the main books several times, and the appendices, and I think I've read the Similarium once, but anyway, but a huge thing, there's a YouTube channel called Nerd of the Rings, and
Okay.
it's fantastic. Yeah. So if anyone out there wants sort of like some help with it, like this guy is so good. Like his presentation is really straightforward. It's more visually oriented.
Hmm.
And even if you don't need help with a backstory for watching the show, it's just really well done. And
Just
they're
a good,
short,
yeah.
like, I think they're like what, 20 minutes at the most, but some are like 4 or 5. And yeah, it's really it's a fantastic channel. So I've benefited a lot from it over the last 6 months or so.
I'll have to get that link from you after once we're
Mhm.
done. It's because it's I'll try to put that in the notes. I'm trying to get better at putting things in notes so that people sort of know when we're talking about stuff if they miss it or whatever. But anyway, I don't think anybody came here to talk about TV stuff. Unfortunately, I could talk about that for hours, but we'll move on. Just jumping into the comments here, we've got AI Collectibles was first before we even went live. He commented. So what's going on? James is just James just dropping by to say hi. If you haven't seen James's his unboxings and reviews of some of the latest G.I. Joe Classified stuff. He's got it up, so pretty early stuff. Good reviews if you want to check those out. The artist formerly known as Facebook user, Jay Wright, is in the house. 250 million gesture. I don't know what that means. And Scott Baker's here. Scott Baker caught us when we were saying goodbye last time. So happy to have you, Scott. It's good to see you. Good to see you made it on time today. First things first, we always like to do show and tell. Greg, did you pick up anything cool this week? Any new toys? Any new toy adjacent stuff? I know that you're a photographer. I sniped your picture, put it in the background there. So.
Yeah. Like you had up there, the Lionel just came in. A guy was selling them, a reseller had a bunch of them on Amazon that were going for pretty cheap. So I snagged a few of them, sort of the characters that I liked, like the two versions of Mumra, that and Panthro.
Yeah.
So one which was not that cheap. I mean, it was a little less than retail. Was the Snowman guy from there, and I only got it because I thought, that recent He-Man Battle Cat, like he'd be an easy repaint into that. I'm like, I wonder what it's. I'm like $19. I'm like, sold.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that, and I think like I posted a Transformer that came in, Motor Master, one of the Stunticons or whatever. And I was a kid, I never had them, but they were like my favorite sub teams. So that, and man, this week I think was also that Batman, that 1/18 scale Batmobile came in, and I customized it, and yeah, it's been a pretty good week. It was so dry for so long, but now everything is like starting to like really fire in, because the week before that was like Stalker and the Crimson Twins, and it's like, yeah, everything's starting to really roll now. So it's good and it's bad, because I don't know about you, but when pre-orders start to fill and stuff starts to come in, and like you get that pile of stuff that you can't unbox fast enough, you kind of get a sweat going. You're like, am I in too deep? You really start to sort of like, you worry about it, right? But then, you're like, no, because it's going to dry up after this for another like 3 months, and then you'll just coast on this stuff. So.
Yeah, I mean that's so true, right? And that's I've said this before, and I'm always sort of an advocate for prepaying or pre-orders, because that's the other thing, is I think a lot of this and a lot of the stuff that we're going to sort of talk about today is all going to sort of land, or stuff that we're going to talk about has product landing, release after release after release is sort of coming, like it's like every day it seems to be something's ready to ship. And so if you're somebody that's having a credit card hit every single time one of these things lands, it's going to be a tough little stretch here, especially if you went if you backed the his tank and then sort of all this stuff lands. Like, it's yikes. Jumping back into the comments here, going back to this one, Jay Wright said 250 million gesture. He says the rights to Lord of the Ring, and that's the rights. And then I think it's like $1 million an episode or something, probably more than that. I can't remember. I remember seeing the numbers and seeing that it was the most expensive show that's ever been made. Game of Thrones, I think, had that until this show.
It's like then 2.5 times Games of Thrones. I think it's like
bonkers.
Yeah.
But I guess when you're that's the richest man or the second richest man in the world, what's $250 million?
Yeah.
Jay said that Snowman is a big paperweight. It looks incredible though. So yeah, it's AI Collectibles, who is right on the money by saying the struggle is real. It's such a first world problem.
Oh, it really is. It really is. And I mean, that's why I start to sweat, because the sweat is not, can I keep up? Can I afford the sweat is guilt. That's what it is.
The
totally
shame sweats.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, even though you're justifying, it's like, okay, look, I paid for this like 8 months ago. Like, the money's long gone.
But should I have?
But should I have? And I'm like, like, I don't know about you, like, I can see behind you there. But when you kind of start to go like this, you start looking all around, like you do like the slow turn, you're like, oh man, I don't know.
You start. I'm at the point. I get to this point every year or every couple of years where I kind of look at the collection and I go, okay, what can I thin out?
Yeah.
Like if it's not on a shelf, what did I love when I bought, but have sort of lost interest in. So I do have a pile, of stuff that needs to not be in my office anymore. But I'm just too lazy to get around to posting it. And it's like, do I post it in different groups? Do I post, the Mythic Legion stuff in a Mythic Legions group and classified stuff in a classified group? Do I just throw it all on Marketplace? Like what? And so I just don't do it. I just put my hands up. I got it. I'll worry about it another day. Exactly. AI Collectible says, I have my pile of shame. I think that's my pile of shame. It's not so much the stuff that's still boxed that I want to open, as it is the stuff that I am prepared to sort of move on from, that I just don't.
And what's kind of interesting is like how many different hobbies that aren't necessarily directly connected, they have this same phenomenon. Like, I did like scale modeling. I still do from time to time, but the term for them is called the stash, right? And it's basically like, you're in there, you go in to buy paint and you come out with like 2 new kits. It's so nice, it looks great, so you end up with this like, but these guys, it goes crazy. Like, I mean, these guys people are serious into it, will have like 50, 60, 70 sets. And then at the hobby store, they'll have a trunk sale where everyone comes and swaps or sells or whatever. But I always love that term though, like it's the stash, right? And everyone, when I'm in that community, whenever they talk about it, it's like it's like, I think I got one in my stash, right? Like there is that shame, thing. You don't want to speak it too loud. Kind of
my pile of get rid of is on that side. My pile of unbuilt Gundam models is on that side, and in sort of the Gundam model building lexicon, it's the backlog, and everybody has one. There isn't a Gundam model builder that does not have at least one or 2 kits, and I certainly have more than that.
Oh yeah.
But that's one of those things. That's a great hobby because it's like when I have downtime through the winter, I'll build a lot more because I just have more time where I'm inside and stuff, and they just take time. So the kind of beauty of those, which is kind of, I think, similar to the miniature model building stuff, is that there's like a process to it. There's more than just buying it and owning it. You put time into it, you put sort of effort into it, and there's and then you get sort of rewarded by the finished product. That being said, it doesn't stop me from buying, for example, the Gundam Universe fully built, fully painted action figures, which are fantastic as well, for the instant gratification that I've grown accustomed to with action figures. And they're great, but they're not nearly as good as building like a master grade Gundam. But anyway. Jay Wright mentioned take it to Toy Traders the next time you're down this way. So Toy Traders, if you guys don't know, is a fantastic toy store in Vancouver, Langley, BC, more specifically, and they have a trade-in program. Their trade-in program is kind of ridiculous because if they're going to sell it for like $100, they'll give you like $100 store credit for it. It's probably not. It's probably like 90, but like you take stuff in there expecting to get a certain amount, and I always seem to get more than what I expect. Now it is in-store credit, so they're not really losing anything in that respect. But it gives me sort of a guilt-free shopping trip because it feels like free money. It's not. It's just you just prepaid it, so it's not the end of the world. But it's great when you have something that you've sort of held onto somewhat accidentally that sort of gained value, and you take it in and you spent $30 on it, and you take it in and they're like, oh, we'll give you $50 for this, and you're like, that is free money. So AI Collectible says space has become a serious issue, and selling to make room has their own issues. That is true. So there's always, I like to sell in groups because it's usually people that I know or people that I've sort of interacted with a little bit. So there's less of the kind of anxiety of, is this going to work out? Is this person just going to be a douche and not somebody that I want to ever deal with? Mm. Trevor says marketplace can be like a virtual flea market. People trying to buy my imports for 50 cents. Yeah, that's true. People, you post something and it says firm, no holds, no trades, whatever. It doesn't matter what you say. People are like, you list an item for $50 and they're like, I'll give you 5. And you're like, do you sell on marketplace?
Yeah, no, not really. No. Because of that. I mean, I tried, I know that up here we have Kijiji in the States. They don't have it. But same sort of typical thing. I've done some stuff on Kijiji before that's turned out great. I had a whole bunch of mask stuff that I sold off, and I ended up actually trading some vintage Joe stuff. So that kind of went well. But for the most part, it's just like what Trevor was saying. It's like people trying to nickel and dime you. Or often, I think, though, some of these people, they're not collectors themselves. They're actually resellers who are just looking to pad their store or pad whatever. So yeah, I kind of stay away from that. In the past, most of the stuff that I've sold, if it's been in box, I've sold it to places like TF Source or Toy Geek or whatever, who will actually buy it, and I'll just get store credit for that I'll flip into more crack, whatever. But for the other stuff, like you're saying, I put it together in a bulk. I put a flat price on it, or best offer, eBay, and then it's gone. Because with eBay, the delay to get paid and the listing fee sucks and stuff, but the protections, I have had my ass saved by eBay as both a buyer and a seller so many damn times. I just I can't go any other way. It really make it painless and safe. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not getting top dollar, but I'm getting something for it. It's out of my hair. I've got more space and a couple more coins for something else.
Trevor, or sorry, AI Collectible replying to Trevor said, yeah, everybody wants something for nothing. Yeah, I've found that it kind of comes with the territory. So you do get people that are going to lowball, and I will either ignore them if it's just sort of blatantly sort of a lowball that's not going to sort of be a fruitful conversation. Or if they're kind of close, I'll reply and be like, hey, I'm not prepared. I listed it 10 minutes ago. I'm not prepared to sell it to you for half. But, if I do change my mind, I'll let you know. Because I think sometimes that courtesy goes a long way. And sometimes you get them come back and they go, well, how about, $5 less than you listed it? And sometimes I'm like, you know what, whatever, let's do it. Let's get it gone and move on.
So, by the way, have you picked up some stuff in the last little bit yourself?
When it rains, it pours, Greg. You're not wrong. I have stuff in transit too. So I'll have stuff next week too. But it does seem like every once in a while, you do get these moments where everything just sort of happens and things just start arriving. I picked up. Which one will I start with? But in terms of all the stuff coming in at once, I meant to say too that having the channel now, I always intend to try to do unboxing videos, but I'm so distracted and so busy that it's like a struggle to not just open them and take them out and play with them. Rather than sort of wait till a day where I have time, and then by the time I have time. I'm just not bothered. I can't be bothered, and then I just want to do another video. So, but I got this week. I got a few SH Figuarts Dragon Ball characters. So I got the blue-haired, and I don't know if I'll get this right because I don't really. I'm kind of new, not to Dragon Ball, but to the SH Figuarts sort of community, and so they have abbreviations for all the different versions of Goku. And I think this one is the Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Goku. the SSGSS Goku, I think. Then I got the Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan Vegito, I think is the. So this guy's from the movie, the Broly movie, which came out a few years ago, but I only saw like a year ago because it came up on Netflix and sort of reignited the embers of my Dragon Ball passion that I had since I was like 8 years old, kind of thing. And then I sort of went back down the rabbit hole, which why not? I also got the fully powered Broly, which is gigantic. Like compared to this guy, like he's just huge.
Oh my gosh!
And it weighs a lot too.
Yeah.
Do you do figure art stuff?
I've got a Hulk here that I've done. I'm sort of on the fence about the 2022 Batman, but I think I can't. It's sort of between that and the Mafex. I don't know which way, but besides that, yeah, not too much.
They're I think they're right up your alley. I mean, you've only got the one or whatever, but like I'm not gonna take them all out, but like the Vegito comes with like 6 extra hands, so you get like fists, you get open hands, you get different sort of martial arts style hands. That blue head comes with like 2 more different face plates, so different expressions. The one I have on there is the open mouth screaming one because I had them sort of posed facing off against each other. But then you get like an alternate sort of depowered head. Like they're just so fun.
Yeah.
And I've said before, like I had the 3 POA Dragon Ball figures when I was a kid and thought they were amazing because that was all that was out there.
Yeah.
And then sort of the fact that these are available is kind of why I feel obligated to buy them because they're there. But yeah, let's just take a look here. Oh, I also this one I haven't opened yet. So I also got the Goku sort of final. Is evolution? I don't know what it's meant to be called, but it's sort of fully powered up form from Dragon Ball GT, which is a series that nobody likes. But that's, I mean, just a really great figure. You can't see him because of the glare, but you can see on the picture there. He's just Anyway, maybe I'll do an unboxing of that. Probably not. Let's be honest. I won't bother getting around to it.
Like I mean, when I've seen them like along their more sort of like mainstream media. Well, Dragon Ball is mainstream media, but some I guess maybe more Western based. Not so much the Japanese fiction. They've looked amazing. But with them though, I always find availability can be an issue because until very recently, we didn't really have too many other options than from buying from the US or Hobby Link Japan or whatever. But
these came from Spain.
Yeah. Which, that's about right.
Of all places. I mean, somebody in another video was like, oh, and I ordered from this place. And I was like, why does Spain have these? And why? Anyway. Tyler says, a true story. Matthew Purdy, who owns Toy Traders, had toys in his house, like Transformers in the dish cupboards, when he decided to start the store to make space. So he was every collector. He was looking for a way to get his collection out of his house, and that was the way that he did it. Jay said, I found a lot of figures I will blend in with the Cosmic Legion, so sometimes pre-orders dictate what you decide to keep. Yeah, that's true too. I do hold on to things sometimes longer than I should, because I see potential in it, because I see that it could be custom fodder, because I see that it could kind of fit on a shelf. I've picked up figures too. Like I picked up that what was it, a year ago, maybe, that Baron Zemo MCU figure, the purple mask, and sort of he kind of looks like he could be like a mind bender stand-in or some sort of stand. You got him right there, don't you? No, not that one. I got the MCU one.
Oh, the MCU. Yes. Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
He's fairly accessible, so I can pull him off the shelf. This one here. So
Right.
this is an example of like no interest in Baron Zemo as an
Yeah.
MCU sort of Marvel character, but he looks great on my Cobra shelf. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
but that was when we were kind of 2 or 3 waves into GI Joe, and I didn't know how many we were going to get, and I was looking for stuff to infill my shelves.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling that way anymore. I've got Zaymot and Tomax and Stalker on the way. Ordered a couple Hiss tanks. What was it, 2 weeks ago now?
Yeah.
The list of figures that we've got coming is just unreal in terms of how many we've already pre-ordered, how many names or how many figures they've sort of revealed, digital renders, name only, all that kind of stuff. On that note, Full Force Podcast, Chris is here. What's going on, buddy? Jay said he stated selling at the Cloverdale Flea Market before he had a store in terms of the Toy Traders, the owner of Toy Traders. So he was sort of already doing it on a small scale, but now he's doing it on a big scale. It's a really, really big store.
Yeah.
It's probably bigger than any Toys R Us that I was ever in. And it's just a toy store.
Is this the place, or do you know of the place where it's sort of, I think it appeared on, I don't know if it was just, I think it was just Kevin, what's his name?
Kevin Smith,
either on his channel. I don't think it was on Comic Book Man, but I think it was on his channel. And is this the place inside that's got like the diodes hanging off the walls and stuff? Yeah. See, that's like a mecca for me. Like I've watched that video like 3 or 4 times, and I'm like, the next time I'm out there, this is where I have to go. Like, that's, you can go, like everyone else can go to like Lionsgate Bridge, and Canada Place and stuff. No, I'm going there. So, yeah.
That's, I regularly take my oldest daughter when we need to sort of do anything in Vancouver.
Yeah.
I can get her on board going with me by just saying we're going to go to Toy Traders, and then it's that's like it typically opens fairly early on like Saturdays and Sundays when we'll drive down, and that'll be our first stop. We'll spend a couple hours there and then do the rest of our errands around Vancouver and then turn around and come home. But it makes for a long day. I mean, it's 4 hours for us to drive there.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's got to be some reward, I guess. Trevor said Super Saiyan 4 for the GT Dragon Ball GT Goku. Yes, so Super Saiyan 4. So it's like the 4th version, like 4th form, I guess. If you're not sort of familiar with Dragon Ball lore, I won't bore you with it. It gets really complicated.
Okay, there's something I gotta ask because this, I mean, the whole Dragon Ball thing, I think, actually sort of exposes the slight age difference between you and I, where in those formative kid years, 5 years is like massive gap, right? Because for me, like anime is all like, it's all like Guy King, Macross, Battle of the Planets, whatever you want to call it, right? The whole kind of, but when you start getting into sort of like the Dragon Ball Z, Trigun, all that kind of next level stuff, right? For most people in my generation, unless they were really into that, and often too, unless they had family from Asia who were into that long before, they're like, and so like the couple times I've actually tried to watch Dragon Ball, I'm kind of like, is there anything beyond the scream fights? Like, is there any narrative? Like, is there any sort of like, overreaching story to connect all of the ground punching and, screaming faces? Because for me,
short answer is no.
Okay. Because that's the thing. Like, so what keeps you coming back? Like, I can't get my head around it.
So I got into it. So Dragon Ball Z was the first anime that I ever saw, and like I said, I saw it when I was about 8 years old. I was in elementary school, and I had friends whose parents were from Japan, so we were watching recorded VHS tapes of what was effectively the sort of latest episodes. So no dub, no subtitles. We couldn't understand what was going on. We kind of knew the names because the mom would kind of pop in and sort of tell us who everybody was. But that was like in like 1990.
Yeah.
So it you know, those other ones that you're talking about do go back a little bit further, but not much further back than, like, I think Dragon Ball started like in the early 80s, and then
Yeah.
Z started in like 88 or something like that. I'm not 100% certain. But my connection to it is very much that it was part of my childhood, and that I was sort of exposed to it very early. Watching it now, I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, I can see why people can't get into this later. Like, you either get into it early, or you absolutely love the designs, or sort of the style. But in terms of like somebody trying to get into it for the story, it's just not there. But that being said, it's not meant to be. Like, it's meant for 10 to 15-year-old boys. It's not meant for 40-year-old men.
Yeah, wow. I mean, as you know, those sort of distinctions these days is so blurred. But
I got all these action figures. You know, all these brands will say like, "Oh no, these are for kids," but like these are a good example. Like these SH Figuarts figures. I can't remember where it says on it, but yeah. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. It says for ages 15 plus. Like, they're not designed for kids. They're not even trying to sell them to kids. You can get kid toys, you know, for those properties. They're out there.
Sorry, just keep talking. I'm going to grab.
Yeah. I'm just going to jump back into the comments here, because we keep sort of skimming over them as they're coming in, and I'll try to get to as many as I can. Because I love to be able to interact, but if I miss yours, don't take it personally. Jay said Zemo looks like he works for Destro. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm kind of thinking, is that he would sort of fit right in sort of an arms dealer type of role. Jay says, I'm with Greg. I think that one popped up right when you said like you didn't really get the appeal of Dragon Ball, and I get it. Even Ninja Turtles came out while I was hitting. Yeah, that's Ninja Turtles came out. Actually, my first exposure to Ninja Turtles was the comic books. I got into Ninja Turtles before, or I shouldn't say I got into Ninja Turtles. I was aware of Ninja Turtles before it was a cartoon, and thought it was really awesome. But getting to Tyler. Getting to Tyler's comment here, it sounds like you collect almost everything. Have you had to choose one line over another, and were there regrets in your choosing? I come and go. I mean, I'm as a kid, I had a little bit of everything. You know, I was into all the stuff that everybody else was into. You know, I was into the G.I. Joe, Masked Ninja Turtles, not so much Masters of the Universe and He-Man stuff. It's still weird for me to say Masters of the Universe or Motu. To me, it's still He-Man. I was never a big fan, and so I just always have thought of it as He-Man. And Thundercats was into Thundercats as well. I'm just trying to think of other things. You know, I was into a little bit of everything, and then sort of on top of everything, I was into Dragon Ball when people didn't even know what it was, and sort of getting into anime before it was a really big thing in North America. Sort of more to your point of like, you know, the age discrepancy for a lot of anime fans like Dragon Ball, they got picked up in like the late 90s, early 2000s. That's when sort of North American markets started, like Toonami started picking up stuff like Gundam Wing and Dragon Ball, and I don't know what else. I was already into those two. And I didn't really pay attention to what the other ones were, but I was already sort of into anime at that point. But as far as picking lines, I mean, I try not to. I'm always sort of thinking about and conscious about like what's nostalgic versus what's just new and cool. And I try to stay in a lane that is properties that I've known since I was a kid. but new versions of them. Like these SH Figuarts Dragon Balls. Like I was into Dragon Ball a long, long time ago. These toys are great. So that's sort of a combination of that. G.I. Joe Classified. I've got lots of vintage stuff, but Classified is really what I love right now for G.I. Joe. I don't see them as, I don't see them the same way. Like I get, you know, I get the nostalgic collectors, the vintage collectors. I get that. I get what they're kind of doing. I like to play with everything. I like to pose everything. So I want the latest articulation schemes. I want you know, I want my Dragon Ball figure to be able to do this, not move his legs at all. I could go back and buy those 3 POA Dragon Ball figures, but what's the point? They've got 3 POA. You can't play with them very well. To me, the fact that there's the option for having these toys now with more play value and sort of more posability than they've ever had, that's what draws me in. So it's not hard for me to sort of pick lines, because I'll also you know, with certain lines, like, you know, we talked about Thundercats, I got Lion-O and I got Mumra the Ever Living, like the big villain guy, not this sort of wrapped up one. And that's it for me for those Super 7 Thundercats. I don't need any more because I didn't have a big collection as a kid, and because I don't have you know, unlimited shelf space and money and stuff like that. So that's enough of a representation of that for me. I got a lot of Marvel Legends on the shelf, but I kind of have all the ones that I wanted. Like there's a few random X-Men, believe it or not, that I still want. Actually, this is a good example. I want them in these costumes. The Jim Lee era.
The Jim Lee, yeah.
When they went to like the unified costumes across the team, like that was so cool. But I would probably buy them. I would buy the same characters all over again if they came in those costumes.
Yeah.
But other than that, like I've kind of slowed down. Like I don't need another Sabretooth. I don't need another Wolverine. I don't need another. Like once I have a representation of a character, I'm kind of good.
Yeah.
Not a completist. So yeah. What about you? Is there, I know that you kind of pick up some random things here and there sometimes, but
I do. Yeah.
What are your rules? What are your collecting rules?
Yeah. I mean, I think currently I probably pound for pound get the most enjoyment out of the Joe stuff. Just because it's the most fun to photograph. And honestly, the community is pretty lively there too, and that goes a long way, right? Because if like when you get feedback and you know other people are sharing their stuff, that's what it's about. Because it's really, you know, you can't really enjoy stuff in a bubble. You don't buy stuff or you don't take pictures for other people, but do it to be part of a larger conversation. Why you do videos, right? That's what makes it fun. But I mean, I'm really like, it's the Joes, it's Star Wars Black, but again, it's cherry picking there, cherry picking Marvel Legends, and Mythics, for the most part. And again, for the Mythics, I find like, you know, the interaction with each other in the community, both in just the photography, the collecting, the customizing. I don't really customize for myself, but I enjoy watching everyone else's stuff. And of course, crazy amount of like, you know, third-party printing and all that kind of stuff, and soft goods. Like it just go, you know, the hole is so deep, you know, and there's so much to swim in. It's awesome. So that's a lot of fun. That being said, you know, I don't go out of my way to get every Mythic character. I only get the ones that I want, and I only get the ones where I know that they will sort of, when I buy stuff that I know that I can photograph and have ideas from. Then I also like to buy stuff which occasionally, like, you know, maybe like a fifth of the time, which I have no idea. Where it scares me. I'm like, how the hell am I going to take a picture of this, right? What am I going to put it with? How am I going to combine it with another character? How am I going to do all this stuff? Because my biggest fear as a collector, but you know, as a photographer, is I don't want to fall into a rut, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all get trapped in our own styles, either
Mm-hmm.
as collectors or as photographers or customizers. But I feel that it's important that you need to sort of, you know, self-challenge yourself, right?
Sure.
So, and that's why, you know, sometimes you pick up, that's why picking up some of the Mezco stuff, which I've done
Mm-hmm.
before, it's an entirely different thing to try to take a picture of. I've just sort of started up a Instagram account that's only got my Lego stuff on it.
Mm-hmm.
And photographing Lego is a whole other beast. Like it's so different. Like, you know, I feel like 15% of the stuff that you learn from photographing action figures is
Mm-hmm.
transposable to Lego.
Oh
Most of
wow.
it just throw out the window.
Mm-hmm.
And you get some people who are really good at, like Shelley Corbett. She's like one of the biggest ones and stuff. She's actually a former tourism photographer who
Okay.
during COVID said, well, I'm not working, you know, so then she started taking pictures of Lego, and she's fantastic, you know. So, and I know a couple of the guys who do the stop action stuff for Lego, like their actual official things.
Mm-hmm.
And I've tried to learn from them. But again, yeah, it's totally different. But that's why I started up trying to do some of that, because I'm like, I'm by no means, you know, like proficient at even like regular action figure. I have fun with it. Some shots turn out pretty good, I think, you know, but when I look at myself and all the other talent out there, I'm like, you know, I'm still swimming in the kiddie pool. That being said, I'm like, you know, yeah, I've got a lot to improve here, but I still want to challenge myself like over here.
Right.
So yeah, and I mean, I do that with like, and the same thing with like Transformers, which I love. But Transformers I kind of collect more, and it's only
Mm-hmm.
like old G1 stuff, you know, from a million years, like not the toys, but the representations
Yeah.
of. But I try for photos there too, because again, they're hard. Like they don't
Mm-hmm.
they don't pose the same way.
Yeah.
They're the way that they're shaped, you know, the way they cast the light. You know, there's a scale issue because you have to try to make them look much bigger than they actually are, even though they're much smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's like, I find that I can't really say that, you know, this line for this reason, this line for that. It's sort of like, you know, what is pushing me and what is serving me at the same time.
Sure.
So, yeah.
AI Collectibles mentioned Akira was his first anime, and 10-year-old at 10 years old he was like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and that's the big thing, is that I think there's sort of something for everybody in anime. Not we won't sort of belabor this too much longer, because we got stuff that we actually sort of thought we were going to talk about, and we haven't talked about any of it. And Trevor says, if you want to dip your toes into an anime with a good story, you should check out Attack on Titan, which is one that I have heard. Everything I've heard is good, and I still haven't even watched it.
It's really good. I mean, I have seen quite a bit of it and stuff, and you'll never go to those sort of like museum things where you see the skinless cadavers and look at them ever again. But yeah, I mean, like there's so much good anime. But again, I'm of that generation too, where the anime, it has to have a story. Like it has to have something that connects it all. Like the whole like Ghost in the Shell, whether it's the original, you know, whether it's the standalone complex stuff that came after it, or Appleseed or whatever, right? All that kind of stuff I really enjoy a lot. But again, it's got to be hung on something. I can't just do what essentially is like watching someone play Street Fighter for like 25 minutes. It just it doesn't gel, right? So
no, I mean there. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if you sort of get into the manga and stuff, I think there is a lot more backstory there. It's a little bit with like G.I. Joe, right? If you only watched the cartoon, there's not much there. But if you read the comic books, that's where you saw sort of the long story arc, where you actually saw character development, so on and so forth. So it is there. It's just not to the same extent. because a lot of the audience that was there 30 years ago for Dragon Ball is still there now. So they do have to kind of give something to the 40-year-olds.
Yep.
But yeah, it would not be easy to sort of jump in. I mean, the ones that you bring up, you know, the Apple Seeds, the Ghost in the Shells, you know, Akira, all that stuff is fantastic as well. I'm well into that stuff as well. It's just they don't have toy lines that are as appealing. So that's why we're talking about Dragon Ball today and not talking about Akira.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
But I mean, Akira is another good example. I mean, a 2-hour movie that is absolutely fantastic and groundbreaking and incredibly iconic for like Akira was sort of the anime movie that sort of broke North America to the idea of anime.
Yep.
But the manga that goes with that is like 20 volumes deep. Like it goes way deeper than that movie.
And so dark, like ridiculously dark.
Yeah. Anyway, getting back to toys, Jay said that, or AI, or sorry, Jay said, where is it? There it is. I meant to go to this comment. Kind of sucks we are in our 30s and 40s when action figures evolve, but I don't hate it. I don't hate it either because we're finally, at least for me, probably more financially stable to sort of take advantage of some of this stuff, whereas I wouldn't have been able to when I was younger anyway, so it's probably fine. Trevor says, I take pictures of my figures often, and I don't know they aren't the best, but I think it gives me a good reason to play with my toys. I am the exact same way. My Instagram is completely toys that are badly posed and shot on a shelf that's just next to me, because that's what I have. No diodes, no backgrounds, no effects, no nothing, shooting it on an iPhone. And it just gives me something fun to do. Like it gives me sort of, you know, I challenge myself to sort of come up with better poses and sort of tweak poses. You know, things like the angle of the fist that is punching become more important when you're actually taking a picture of it and like documenting it, right? So it's just fun. It's just sort of gets your mind thinking, gets your mind doing something, you know, with your toys. You know about this. I've mentioned this to you, but there's a friend of mine, Authority Figure, Jeremy at Authority Figures, coming out with a game that will use your 6-inch scale action figures as game pieces. So I'm looking at all my shelves and I'm already thinking about teams of like, okay, who's gonna go against who and stuff like that. So in terms of sort of getting us playing with our toys, that's really his big goal, and I'm here for it. I can't wait. It's he's doing an Animal Warriors of the Kingdom version first, and then there's gonna be a follow-up version that's for any line. So but then AI responded to Jay and said, the nice thing about being 40 is you can afford what you want or have acquired huge credit card debt in the process. And that's what I was saying too, is that like, it's nice to sort of be able to take advantage of it. So, and then he just said it again. I just clicked on that comment again. But anyway, in terms of things that are coming up, so the All Stars 5, the Mythic Legions All Stars 5, from Four Horsemen. I know, Greg, you are a big fan of the Mythic Legions, as am I. What are you picking up from the wave?
Oh, you know what? I've been luckily the last, I guess, couple of them, the smaller waves, like the Troll Wave and, the All Stars that came before that. You know, there wasn't a lot on there, but I'm like, this is going to be painful because, like, the horse, like instantly, you know, like, yeah, I mean, it's gorgeous on its own, you know, but with it being that color, and then it's got the Clydesdale hooves and all that kind of stuff, like, it's just awesome. And I mean, the Valius is, you know, such a gem, and to have it in this, yeah, it's like, it's just gorgeous. But then when you see it mixed up with, is it Drubin? The dark,
yeah, actually it's on that page. Hold on.
Yeah, like when I saw Trevor's shot of that, I'm like, oh my god, it's so painful. And I look at it, I'm like, yeah, okay, like I'm gonna get this because it looks so phenomenally good. But along with this and all the other stuff that's on there, you know, you feel extreme joy when you see it and the stuff you're gonna get. but then you feel extreme pain when you think about how long it's going to be till you get these things. Like it hurts because some of these just look so good. Like for the Motu ones look, for people who love that, I think they look amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But pretty much I'm kind of in for like the rest of the line, like just not the spider or the flying dude. Can't remember his name.
Xenophon.
Stratus. Yeah, I only know them by their
Stratus. Yeah.
names. So yeah.
We Patty and I were talking about our selections from the wave last week, and neither of us knew the names for either of the actual Motu characters. We just knew the Mythic Legions figures. So what I will say though is that Xenophon figure, I actually won one and I have it in hand already. It's phenomenal. It's
really? Yeah.
If I hadn't got it sort of sent to me, I may not have bought it. Now that I have one, I kind of want a second one to have a second gray orc.
Yeah, sorry.
And the wings are phenomenal. Those are the first feathered wings that I've had from Mythic Legions. Okay. I've had the sort of demon wings.
Yeah.
I've got the red and the blue, and then I've got a set coming with the Alithia wave. But the feathered wings look fantastic. I don't know that I'll keep mine red. I may sort of try to go brown or a little bit darker or something. But they're great. They look fantastic.
They're amazing. Like, I mean, I've got the golden ones that came with Galadriel, the Archangel in white, and I keep forgetting. Like, I took a picture of her, I guess, a couple weeks back. And
you did. That was a thing.
I took it. I'm like, oh, why don't I shoot this thing more? It's gorgeous. Like with especially like when you spread out the wings like wide and tall. I'm like, oh man, this is a beautiful figure. So yeah, I think you'll enjoy them for sure. So
and I gotta
yourself. Are you in for the whole thing? The whole way?
No. So Patty and I went over it last week, and we were both we had both very, very similar selections. So I'm kind of all in for the new stuff. In the mainline stuff. I already have Xenophon, and now I'm debating sort of picking up a second one. But then it's all the new stuff. I'm probably not getting any of the actual All Stars. So Azar, Ilgar, Romulus, I may pass on. But it's really more like, it's weird because it's more down to the strength of the new stuff. Like it's not that any of those like they're not my favorites. But I can appreciate them.
Yeah.
But I mean, that horse, I'm going to grab a couple. Dubin, Lady Averona, Xylernian Guard, and Swig are like some of my favorite characters and figures in the line, full stop.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm seeing in a picture. And you and I both know that having these in hand really elevates. They look great in pictures. They look even better in hand. And once you start playing with them, it's the blessing and the curse of this line. Once you get one or two, just to sort of get a taste, you're hooked. But I'll probably get.
Sir, you know what's so bad about that too is that it's when you get them in hand, you always realize you didn't buy enough every single time.
Yes.
Every single time.
Yes. I'm looking at probably a couple Xylernian Guards. Like I said, a couple Boreas. Dubin and Lady Averona, I'll probably buy a couple. One to sort of keep the standard figure, and then the others for customizing. Like, I just think the potential for those parts in terms of fodder is phenomenal. The head pack is just going to make people need more figures too, to sort of put heads to different figures.
Yeah.
Swig is the goblins are great. I'm okay with sort of one of each goblin. So I'll probably only get one Swig, but then I think, okay, but that armor's a little bit unique. And I mean, take the fabric skirt off, change the pauldrons, and he's a different goblin. So many goblins come with a spare head. So I've got extras, I could start mixing and matching. It's a rabbit hole. Once you start going down it, it's virtually impossible to stop. But yeah, Azar, because I don't have any other demons. I'm saying I'm not going to get Azar. I'm not going to get Romulus. Ilgar is the one that I'm on the fence with, because Ilgar's armor looks fantastic. I'm not a skeleton fan, but Ilgar's armor looks fantastic, and I might sort of part swap. I'm not a massive Mercurian fan, to say the least. But I have a Vetus, so I may take a Vetus and an Ilgar and sort of swap that red armor for Ilgar's armor.
Yep.
And that might be the motivation for me to get Ilgar. But yeah, great wave. Really looking forward to it. Got to mention that Mike at E Collectibles will have these. So if you're in the US, ordering these from Four Horsemen is definitely the way to go. The pricing's fantastic, shipping's reasonable, but I mean the price per figure is well worth sort of paying a little bit more in shipping.
Yep.
But if you're not, as we are in Canada, we are looking at FedEx fees and duty and exchange and shipping costs and all that kind of stuff. It's basically a wash to get them from 4-H or from a Canadian distributor. Mike at E Collectibles is going to have these up. I think, is it up now?
No, I think he said mid-September. It's whenever the pre-order ends at Four Horsemen. I think, was it this week? And then
I thought it ended today, but maybe it's midnight tonight, so they go up tomorrow.
Yeah,
they go up. They effectively go up sort of the day after Four Horsemen is done. My understanding. So, start taking your notes, start penciling in which figures you're going to need, because that window is going to open pretty soon. And like I said, that's definitely going to be the best way to get them. Greg, you and I both are big fans of Mike at E Collectibles. And I can't, man, he's been so helpful. To a lot of collectors, and especially Mythic Legions collectors. Like, it's really, really great that we have the option of getting it from him. So I'm pretty excited for that. You and I have both ordered from Four Horsemen before, and both sort of, we don't seem to learn our lessons. We always sort of go back, because it always seems better than it is, right? You pay less for the figure, and then you get your shipping and duty charges, and then you get hit with a delivery charge, and then you get an invoice from FedEx, a few days later, and it's just.
And however, there's one thing that people should know, that if it's not just Mike and E Collectibles, it's gonna be anyone. It can be like Zed, DJC, whoever, even Big Bad or whatever. Is that Four Horsemen ships their stuff before the stuff going out to all the e-tailers. So if you're the type of person who starts, having their skin melt when they see other people posting figures that you haven't got a ship notice yet and will not get for several more weeks, be warned, this is what happens. So
that is a good point.
If you need it first, go direct and pay the premium. I'm talking to Canadians. Or anyone non-US, then go there first, and if not, don't complain that you're stuff, and don't chase Mike or any of the other guys saying, I'm seeing all these stuff, and it doesn't work that way. Trust me, it drives me crazy, because like in the photography world, first to the trough, people say it doesn't mean a lot. It doesn't bother them when they're not, or even close to it. But yeah, kind of, you really get the itch. You want to be putting it out when you see other people putting stuff out. So if that bothers you, you can't handle it, go direct, pay the premium.
On that note, there's another. This is of note, but here's sort of a good example that sort of hits a bunch of sort of points that we touched on. SH Figuarts is doing this character, and I forgive everybody for not knowing who this is, but this is the Frieza second form. So that's another thing with Dragon Ball, is a lot of the villains go through these actual physical evolutions where they come, they debut looking one way, and then through whatever reason there's sort of machinations that allow some of them to actually evolve. So this is the second form of one of the characters. He later takes on a third form, and then what's called his final form. His final form is probably the most famous version. So a lot of people recognize this version. That's final form Frieza, but this is the what's weird is in the same way that like Broly is huge compared to Goku, Frieza is really small compared to Goku in this form, but in that form he's the size of Broly. So it's just a weird. They just have weird ways of sort of doing it, doing character design. But this figure looks really, really great, but it's not a form that I like. So sort of going back to Tyler's question of like, you know, do you draw the line? Great looking figure, not one I need because it's not a form that I love. And final form to me is sort of the right one to have in my collection. But this, you know, this is sort of a photographer's dream. And this is, you know, again, this is a funny line because like you can order this on Japanese sites. I don't know of any Canadian site that has this up or will for that matter, because I think in the US or in North America, it's a P Bandai exclusive, which is like Bandai's direct to consumer thing, but it's US customers only. They'll only ship to US addresses. So Canadians are kind of left out in the cold, so to speak. I guess figuratively and in some ways literally, because I think this might be a January 2023 delivery. I can't remember. But anyway, that's yeah, just sort of, you know, speaks to a bunch of the points that we talked about of like sometimes there's figures that just aren't, that are really cool that I just don't need. And it's you know, I'm happy to know that I have the self-control to sometimes say, yeah, that one's not for me. I'm good. I'll pass on that. Classified, I haven't found that one yet. There has yet to be a figure where I've just said, yeah, I'm good without that one. I keep saying that there's ones that I'll feel that way about. I think we've lost you there, Greg. I don't know if Greg will be back, but we'll keep rolling and hope that he jumps back on. Classified, I haven't had that yet. I initially thought that was barbecue until I started seeing reviews, until I sort of saw what he looked like, and now I think that's a really, really great figure. Slaughter's Marauders repaint of barbecue might be sort of one step too far. That might be more than I'm willing to sort of go that route. I don't know. There's that's I'm looking at some of the Tiger Force stuff too. Tiger Force Duke with that bike may be a pass for me as well. That being said, you know, once it pops up in store, who knows? I may change my mind. But yeah, that's oh great. Yeah, Greg's just dropped off here. I hope he comes back. We'll see. So yeah, speaking to sort of Tyler's point, like there's definitely stuff that you know, he asked, is there stuff that you sort of regret buying? I don't really regret buying anything. I'm typically the opposite. I'm typically I regret not buying things sometimes. So I'll pass on something, and if it's something that I pass on initially, I usually won't go back. I usually won't. I won't retroactively go after stuff, which is kind of nice because that way I'm not paying over retail too much. I'm typically able to. Hey, Greg's back. I'm typically able to find things at retail, and then if I don't, it's usually because I've chosen to pass on it. And if I change my mind down the road and I decide, oh, I should have got that at retail and now it's $200, I just don't get it. I just sort of wait till there's another version of it, or it pops up somewhere, maybe a trade. It could come up as a trade or something like that. But do you do much aftermarket buying, Greg? Or you I think you're more like me. You'll buy things at retail or kind of not at all.
Yeah, I have in the past, but like for a while I was into the By the way, we're having a storm here, so if I cut out again, that's why. Yeah, in the past, I was into the Diaclone reboot stuff,
Hmm.
um, which uh, which is really fun. So I was buying some of that aftermarket, and then when I sort of got out of that, I was lucky that I was able to sell it all aftermarket.
Hmm.
But yeah, I typically don't search stuff out. If I do buy aftermarket, I only sort of look to pay like maybe like 10-15% more of retail price.
Hmm.
And only if it's something that I really feel that I need to complete something. So yeah, not too much. I have bought, like, I think the most expensive thing aftermarket was um, probably two of the Rumble Society ones, like Doc Knock and I think another one. But yeah, but I mean, even then, like, they was, because when you
But
order from Mezco from Canada, you're basically looking at about like 160, $170 anyway. Uh,
yeah.
like it was only like, 10-15 bucks above what I would have paid. So
Yeah, and I think I mean, that's a good example of, yeah, you do make a good point too. Is it like if there's something that you kind of miss at retail, but if somebody else has it somewhere and you can
yeah,
get it close to retail, if it stops me having to look for it, I might even go for it.
yeah,
Those mezcals aren't cheap to begin with.
yeah,
So 10 or 15 bucks over is what's the big deal? You just
yeah,
take it.
yeah, exactly.
AI Collectibles says if I track down Tiger Force Duke at Toys R Us, I will grab him, but not sad if I miss out on him. Yeah, that's how I'm. Yeah, I'm sort of taking a passive aggressive approach to passing on Tiger Force and Python Patrol by saying if I find them in store, I'll buy them, but I'm not ordering them. I'm not going to pay
Okay.
shipping to sort of add them to my collection. If I can get them at retail, I will. Otherwise, those will be the first figures that I sort of don't get. Um, he also asks, Greg, what's your Instagram? I know the
Oh,
answer, but
it's Tora. It's Tora Nerd, which is TORANERD.
and it's a I follow Greg on Instagram. It's a great one to follow if you like toy photography. You do all your behind the scenes, so you do your nice close up tight shots, as
Mm,
well as sort of the sort of, you usually do a video of it too, so you can kind of see the scene that's sort of taking place around the picture itself,
yeah.
which is cool. I like and you're not the only one that does that. A lot of people seem to be doing that, which is kind of fun
Mm,
for somebody that is either new to photography or trying to learn, or just sort of interested in sort of what goes on, because sometimes it's interesting, like this the shot seems so composed and so complete, and then when you pull away, you're like,
it's
oh, there's
yeah,
a whole bunch of random stuff just
yeah,
thrown on a table,
yeah,
and in that tight frame it looks really good, and wide it just looks
yeah.
like chaos. But
And yeah, like yeah, I've been more recently, I've been like doing like the video as a an Instagram, no, more in Facebook. But sometimes though, like if I'll post to Facebook, whatever particular forum, and then often I'll link to TikTok where the behind the video is. And but yeah, I mean, that's something I think it's kind of fun. And the main reason why I'm doing it is because I've learned like so much from other photographers who do that.
mhm.
Like I know that couple of the like Eddie and his toys, he does a few of those which have kind of like they've been instructful. And I know that when Trevor posts his, he does normally one every like month or two. They're really like they're like total school. So
Mhm.
if someone can learn something, great. It's kind of helps. So
Yeah, for sure. AI Collectibles said only classified I'm missing is the Pulse exclusive Regal Blue Cobra Commander. Refused to pay $100 for a figure I plan on opening. That's kind of how I feel too. I mean, I'm not buying these. Um, I I am probably in the minority of people that sort of buys these with the intention of treating them like toys and not like gold bars that are going to appreciate in value and will have sort of a resale value. I'm always reluctant to resell things. That's part of it, is that like I buy things because I really love them and because I really want to have that in my collection, in my possession to sort of play with. A lot of it now that I have kids, I will sort of fully admit I'm trying to convert my kids to sort of be fans of the things that I am. And so if I need a toy form of that to get there, I'm always happy to sort of get it. When they show zero interest in a line or in a brand or in a character, that's when I'm kind of like, okay, I guess I don't need this. So I kind of, there is times where I'll buy 2 or 3 figures from a line or from a brand or from something, test the waters, no reaction. I probably will never even mention to somebody that I bought them, because they're sort of in and out that quick, and I don't, and I move on. I can't think of anything sort of specifically off the top of my head, but that's kind of my approach. But
there's one question, you may have addressed it in another stream, and it's for you, Adam, but also for the forum, and that is that for me anyway, one of the big news drops last week was Valaverse's partnership with that vehicle company.
Verzani?
Yes, I think so.
Verzani?
Yeah. Announcing that they're going to be doing, starting off with the Jeep, and then probably moving on to that 6-wheel pickup thing. And of course, immediately not everyone, but like a substantial amount of people are just saying like, oh, I wish I didn't spend money on the hiss, and I got to get this kind of stuff. So yeah, so like to me, like when I see this, I'm like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you think that like it's going to be a Kickstarter? Do you think it's going to be just something where he's going to develop it and then drop it for pre-order?
I think so. I think it's going to be a pre-order. I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% certain, but I'm fairly sure that Bobby Valla, who owns and runs Valaverse, which is the brand that does Action Force, has effectively said that the first Kickstarter was the only Kickstarter he's going to do. That Kickstarter was successful enough that they sort of are able to sort of use the funding from that to fund the second wave, and then pre-order it, and then fund the third wave pre-order. So it should just be a pre-order type of scenario. In terms of my feelings about that vehicle or potential vehicle, figures are why I had this exact conversation with a bunch of people sort of over the last few days. Figures are one thing, because when a 6-inch figure sort of needs to occupy space that isn't my shelf, you can fit a lot of figures in a fairly small amount of space. 6-inch scaled vehicles, you don't have that luxury. They are always the size that they are. With a couple of his tanks on the way, and just because I'm more inclined to go with the actual G.I. Joe branded stuff for that reason that I talked about, of like staying in that lane of that sort of marriage of nostalgia with sort of modern toys. I'm, without having seen the actual vehicle that they're going to do, I'm at this point saying that I'm going to pass on it, because I'm maybe 99% sure. It seems like a lock, because we already have the his tank in the pipeline now. It seems like a lock that we're going to get something like a Vamp or an Ostraker. And if we do, I'll get a couple of those, and then I'll be set for like classified vehicles. So I'm not really looking for something to add to that line. I'm actually hoping we don't get too much where I'm kind of burdened with sort of like well, maybe I'll just get one of everything. Like I said, figures are one thing, and like adding another deco of a figure is not that big of a deal, but adding a Jeep that I sort of later go, okay, it's not as, I don't want the Verzani Jeep as much as I would want a Vamp. So I'm kind of just saying, okay, I'm just going to say that I'm just going to pass on the Verzani. And when the Vamp comes, I'll be sort of all in on that one. That's sort of where I am with that. The figures, Valaverse figures, I got a bunch of those. The Action Force figures are great. But for me, they're like this guy. They're on my classified shelf as fill-in. But with all the characters that we've got coming out, for the remainder of this year, coming out next year, and sort of all the stuff that they're announcing, I just have less an interest in padding my shelves.
Yeah,
I just don't need to pad my shelves. So that's kind of, initially when I actually backed the Action Force Kickstarter, it was when Classified had just been announced. They'd only announced 6 figures, and I thought, okay, well, if we get 6 figures now and there's another 6 figures, at the end of the year, and then 12 next year or whatever, we'll have. But I mean, we're like 60 figures in after like 2 years or 2.5 years. So there's no, there's not as much room on the shelf as I thought there might be. There's not as much room in the budget as I thought there might be. So on and so forth. So it's just not a necessity. It doesn't fill a need that I have.
Right.
Which is why, again, like going back to sort of Tyler's question there, I tend to be very sure of what I like, and so one of my other buying rules is I don't buy something just because somebody says it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I need to really want it for myself.
Yes.
So Romulus is a great example. It wins the All-Star vote. Everybody says how great Romulus is. I couldn't care less about that figure, so I'm not buying one.
Yeah.
I won't buy one. Very quickly, because he asked, and then I'll sort of continue on. There's another comment, Scott's comment I'm going to bring up here. AI Collectibles asks, what app do you use to heighten the effects? Photoshop?
Photoshop, yeah. It's Photoshop for effects, merging photos, cropping, that kind of thing. And then for overall adjustment, it's Lightroom, which is an Adobe product as well. And if someone is looking to do this for themselves, it's all subscription now. Adobe runs it. You can't buy the application. It means you always get the most current one. If you go on adobe.com, or for Canadians, if you look up the photography suite, don't just try to pick Photoshop and pick Lightroom and then subscribe to them. It'll cost you like $30 a month. If you pick the photography suite, it gives you both for $14 Canadian a month.
Yeah, then you can spend the rest of your money on the figures to take the photos of.
Exactly. So if you want to do that, and I have to tell you that as much as Photoshop can be daunting, and it is, honestly, Lightroom, you will be amazed what happened. I didn't believe it until I think Trevor and Nate Strong were talking about it years ago, and I thought, I went through a trial. I had to try, like, next level. Like, my camera is cheap and it makes things work. So Lightroom, all I can say for anyone taking pictures, Photoshop, you can wait. Lightroom will do wonders for you.
So there you go. You can be professional level photographer. All you need is Lightroom. You heard it here. Scott Baker says, I need your willpower. I've been going back and getting some mythics I've missed. Greg, I don't know. I know that you're in the cabal, but I don't know how much you sort of maybe pay attention to all the posts, and I don't know if you've sort of seen Scott's posts.
Yeah.
Scott's knocking off like all of what are sort of considered the Grail figures.
Yeah, I've been seeing it. Yeah, and I'm looking at it going like, okay, so I guess Bezos has a cousin.
Yeah. And I think Gideon Heaven's brand was one post, and then there was a post that was
Attila, I think, was in there.
Well, there was like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
That were, it was like I can't remember what it was. Scott, you could even comment if you want, but it was like, I think it was like Valgard, Attila, Ignatius, like it was 4 or 5 of some of the wave 1 type stuff, and it was just I was like, and I think that was like one package that he grabbed from somebody else in the cabal, and I was just like, I'll never have most of those figures. I got super lucky and got Valgard. But it wasn't something I was searching for. It just came up. that somebody had one, and I reached out to him. He was new to the line, and I said, hey, I'll trade you for that one. And I'll trade you a bunch of stuff that I have doubles for that one figure. And he was happy to expand his line, and I was happy to get a figure that I thought I'd never have. But speaking of, aftermarket prices, Scott, I mean, I'm very impressed. That was quite the flex. I know, I don't think he meant for it to be a flex in any way, but there was some heavy hitters in those picks for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and you know what? Like, honestly, like when I see people pick that stuff up, and particularly when they just post the figure, like, when they get like, look what I got, it's exciting. Like, I'm excited, like, awesome, right? I'm less excited when someone posts the sale of what they paid for it. I'm like, I don't really care what you paid for it. I mean, that's great. But I mean, when they just show the figure, and I'm like, yeah, man, that's awesome. Like, I don't need to know how much you paid for it, but if you paid a little, a lot, it doesn't matter. You're thrilled with it. Great. It's really good stuff.
Getting back to that Action Force vehicle, AI Collectible says it all depends on price if I consider buying them. Only so much space, and I have 2 HISS tanks on order, so he's in the exact same boat as me.
Yeah.
And then as far as the HISS tank goes, he said, I still don't get the hate towards the price of the HISS. The amount of extras makes it worth it. Considering the fact that we paid $35 to $45 a figure, I absolutely agree. That was sort of how I looked at it too, is that I kind of took the price, and then you subtract the price of 4 figures off of it. And then I kind of went a little bit further, and I thought, okay, well, I don't need the retro carded Cobra Commander, so I'm probably going to sell both of those. And I think I'm conservatively estimating that $80 to $100 for that figure on the aftermarket.
Yeah.
So you take $100 off the price tag just by sort of having that as resale. Tacticians I'm probably going to sell as well, and just keep the drivers, the female and male drivers.
I think though, like, I mean, and this horse is more than dead and be eaten, but and I do understand that, some people and their thoughts on it, while the value, I think what you're getting for that money is really good.
Mm-hmm.
The baseline cost to pay to play for that is out of reach for a lot of people, and I think that's what the point is. Not that there's no value, it's just that I can't join the fun because to get in the game is half my rent, right? So, like, that's kind of, I think, and I understand that. That's fine.
You're absolutely right. And when I did videos sort of in the backer period, right, I said the exact same thing. And whether you're not getting it because you don't want to, whether you're not getting it because it doesn't make sense in terms of like the purchase price, whatever, good on you. I think it's sort of one of those things where it's not an easy one for everybody. And I genuinely hope, and I, again, because I see toys as toys and not as sort of a market sort of value type thing.
Yeah.
I genuinely hope that they do a retail HISS that's, no electronics, none of the extra accessories.
Yeah.
Maybe just the HISS plus a driver for $100, $150.
Yeah.
Because I think it should be accessible. And if they don't do a HISS, hopefully they'll do something else. Like, hopefully they do a Vamp at retail, and then they can do a Stinger at retail.
Yep.
Just so that people can get it. I am not somebody that there is a small minority of collectors that I think their motivation is largely like the prestige almost of getting something that's either expensive or difficult to get.
Mm-hmm.
Those, when you see those posts, are the ones where you kind of go, really? Like, is that like what? It's weird. That's really weird to me. To like, okay, so you're like the nerd bully of sorts. Like, think of the audience. Like, it doesn't really make sense. Like,
and stuff like that. Like, that's what adds to the toxicity,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I mean, back when like the Joes are really hard to find, And in some of the Joe groups, you know, you'd get guys posting like, you know, like I got 10 of them, right? And it's like, like they're not an army builder, right? They're 10 of like a named figure or whatever. And then, then you have some people say, oh, you know, like, are you gonna sell them or whatever? And either the answer was no, or, you know, yeah, I will, you know, slide me $200 and one is
$100 for this $30 figure.
You know, all right, dude, well, whatever. I mean, carry on, but you know, congratulations for bringing everyone down.
Yeah, I don't know what the play is there. Like I don't know what the motivation is. You're always gonna look like a villain, but I guess maybe that's for some people that, you know, trolls gonna troll, I guess is the reality. AI Collectible says 20,000 plus begs to differ. I think, you know, AI Collectibles is sort of making the argument that there's a lot of people that will have them, which is true. But I mean, I just hope that it's I just hope that everybody sort of doesn't feel like it's a bird. Like people that wanted it hopefully got it, and it's not gonna be a strain of some sort. That's I genuinely hope that, because toys shouldn't give you stress. Toys should bring you joy. It should be about fun. It shouldn't be like, you know, counting pennies and sort of budgeting. You know, not having Christmas for your kids because you had to get this toy for the status of like not owning it, you know, being shamed or something like that. But
that's to go back to the Vala thing, and that's why I'm kind of like, if they do release this as a pre-order, and like, you know, let's say it's $100 US, right? You know, I'm kind of happy for that. I mean, like, I don't really know if I'll get it or not. It all depends on the size, because for me, I mean, you've seen those behind the scenes videos. I don't have a large photo area, so there's only so much that I can really use it for, and that was part of my criteria for the hiss. The hiss would fit. The hiss would have been nice, but it's limited as to what I could do with it just because of what I do. Yeah, and more or less,
it's gonna be big. Yeah.
Yeah, and more or less, it's going to be background stuff, right? But it makes me feel good that maybe there's going to be an option for someone to get in to have a vehicle of some sort for their stuff. That's not, you know, not either an expensive Kickstarter, or like on eBay, you can get some of those, some of the stuff from Asia that, you know, has been out of print for a few years, but charge crazy prices now. So I'm kind of glad to get that. But for me personally, like, you know, for them announcing, you know, the Trouble Bubble, I hope they do a ferret, like the smaller stuff, you know, kind of like slightly motorcycle, like a Skyhawk, I would love, like, would be so great, right? Like for me, I hope we get some of that stuff just because it's cool. It's storable, and I can use it, right? So
100%, and that's like, you know, when you hear people talking about like, oh, I want a Sky Striker, or I want a flag in classified scale, or like all these vehicles, you're like, no, you don't. You think you do, but you don't. You don't. You don't have the space for it. You don't have the budget for it. You don't, like, it just doesn't make any practical sense. Like I think once the hiss start shipping and we actually have it in hand, people start getting it in hand, people are going to go, yeah, I think maybe a whale is too big. I think maybe, you know, a Sky Striker is too big. I just don't, like, it's just not feasible. People are sort of imagining how big they'd be, and they're like, oh, well, they could, you know, scale it down a little bit. It wouldn't have to be it wouldn't have to be sort of true 112, even though classified's closer to 110 anyway. So if it was 112, it would actually be scaled down from what the scale of classified is. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. It would be huge. It would be gigantic. I don't think people are thinking about the logistics of shipping one of those, or you know, if Hasbro has to ship a Sky Striker to you, it's gonna be a massive box, and it's gonna be, where are you gonna put it? I mean, I'm looking in my office, and I'm even looking at the ceiling, and I'm like, a Sky Striker would take up like a quarter of the ceiling in here. And then it would be on the ceiling, and I wouldn't be able to do anything with it anyway because it would just be too big. I couldn't put it down anywhere.
Like if
you about max, that's max size for like what's going to work.
if you Google one 112 or 110 scale RC fighter jets, it's
Mm-hmm.
very popular scale, right, for those things.
Mm-hmm.
You see them, they're enormous, right? And I mean, these things are probably at the minimum they're 5 feet long. When you start getting into like some of the Russian jets, or the F-14, and the F-14 being like a two-man, third generation jet, it's huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like it's so massive, and I don't think so. You can just by googling that, you can get a good sense of sort of how improbable.
Yeah, I'm trying to find one. I'm seeing different stuff at different scales. I'm trying to find one that actually has a caption that says like what scale it is properly, but they're huge. I mean, the guys are standing up next to them, and they look like they're roughly the size of the human.
Yeah.
So it's like, what what do you what do you think? Oh, I'll just, you know what? I'll just
Two
bring up.
guys to carry them on and off the tarmac.
I'll just bring up the page. I just Google search 110 scale fighter jet. I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna change it to 112 scale fighter jet and see if that gives me any different hits. Because there was one that was 1.7 and it looked gigantic. So it's showing pictures of them, but it's not showing it next to a person. So I'm trying to find one that's next to a person.
You basically, I find it's YouTube. You have to search.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and that won't jive because as soon as I try to play that through StreamYard, it just freezes everything up. I tried that once before, didn't work. But yeah, I mean, I've seen them. Like this is so. Here's, I don't know what the scale of that one is specifically, but like that's a fighter that's on the small side as far as fighter jets go. This one here that I've sort of blown up a little bit.
Like that's probably like 115, maybe 114.
Yeah, like yeah. I don't think that's 110. Like I think that's but that's, I mean, even if it was that big, like that, you might get a Conquest. That's the other thing is I'm looking at some of the other vehicle, like the other planes that they did, and they might, I mean, they could do like a Conquest and a Rattler because those are a little bit smaller, but they're still gonna be so big. Like it just, to me, it seems unreasonable, but whatever. To each their own, I guess. It's I'm with you. Vamp is my sort of number one want. But then as far as Skyhawks or Devilfish or Cobra Fang, Cobra Glider, I think there's a lot of small to medium scale vehicles that they could do that in a 6-inch scale would not be small to medium. They'd be big enough. And I would be happy enough with figures sort of that size.
I think, dude, like that Trouble Bubble is going to be so much fun. Like that is, to me, that is perfect. Like that is just perfect.
Yep. AI Collectible says, I hope we see more smaller, medium-sized vehicles at retail. I hope HasLab proves there is demand. The Fortnite boat for $100, for example. Agree completely. I think what they should do, and I think this is, I get what they're trying to do, what they've done with the HasLab by having it like a premium HasLab product, with the light up and the display. It's like a backlit LED display and stuff like that. But just go back to ship it in a box in pieces and have people put it together and put their own decals on and just charge very little for it. That's all I want. Like, I'm happy with a Vamp that's exactly the same as the Vamp that came out in 1983. Just scale it up. I don't need it to be better than that. I don't need it to be more than that. If it is a little bit updated, a little bit better design, like if they did like what they did with the 25th Vamp, where
that's what I was going to say.
There's a little bit more to sort of the color, and there's a little bit more detail and stuff like that. I'm here for it. And at sort of $100 to $150, you can get a couple. You could fill your garage up if you want at that price. But I think there's demand for it. I think everybody's saying there's demand for it, and I think Hasbro knows there's demand for it. I think the hiss proved that more than anything. It got rid of any doubt that they can sell vehicles at that scale. I think personally.
And I think even maybe before they did a vamp, they would maybe even try for an awe striker because it's smaller. But then you can't repaint into Stinger though.
Yeah, I mean, I think the vamp has more repaint potential because you could do a tiger sting.
Yeah.
You could do the stinger. You could do like the Mark II, the brown one.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, that mold potentially has more reuse.
Yeah.
Now they could do an Striker and do like what they did with the Python Patrol Bat. We could start seeing vehicles that they'd never done before. You could see a Python Patrol Striker or a Tiger Force Striker or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'd be on board for that. That would be fine. I think the Striker with the suspension that it has in the vintage. I think if they didn't do the suspension, people will be upset. And I don't know if that affects costing. So it might be sort of one of those things where I just think that the vamp maybe has the more reuse. It's a little more simple. It's a little more straightforward, but I don't know. Time will tell. I think the answers to these questions and more will be coming at us sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
But we normally do an hour. We're at an hour and 35 minutes. My beverage is empty, so I think on that note we'll probably call it a day.
For sure.
Greg, it's been a pleasure. It's always fun to talk to you. It's always it's always the case that we don't hit the points that we sort of scheduled to hit. But great to have you on. I hope to have you on again very soon. Where can people see you? We already sort of mentioned your Instagram, but where can people sort of follow you if they are so inclined?
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for having me on. Always a blast. It's great. And thanks everyone in the forum too, because they're always it's always a lot of good questions and back and forth and stuff too. For where I am, like I mentioned before, Instagram, it's at Tora Nerd. My Lego one is Tora Bricks. It just started up. Even though I've got tons of backlog there that I'm posting, so there's still stuff going there. And in the Cabal, on Facebook in Articulated Comic Book Art, and of course Northern Outpost and Knights of the North, we're there too. So yeah, that's and where TikTok is Tora Pics, and I'm creeping up on 100 videos, which I can't believe. They're now all ready. So yeah, so that's always fun. It's the TikTok stuff I find for photographers, it's not really a big focus for a lot of them, particularly like for the big ones in other venues. They don't really post there too often. I think because the interface is kind of weird, and the reach is weird, and the feeds are weird. It's kind of hard. So anyway, but yeah, feel free to check me out there. I'm always happy to have some people comment and gripe and say, what's this stuff? It doesn't make sense to me. So it's
troll you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, again, like I said, Greg, thank you for having the patience to sort of hang out and sort of chat toys with me. Always a pleasure to have you on. Thank you guys for joining. Anybody that watched live, or anybody that's watching it after the fact, thank you guys, because it's one thing for me to just rant at nobody, or for me and Greg to just sit here, but it's always great to have people commenting and interacting and so forth. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, and if you want to see more, subscribe. If you didn't like it, feel free to hit that thumbs down. That also lets me know that I should do something different or change it up, or never have Greg on again.
Exactly.
Let me know in the comments with some feedback. And on that note, guys, thank you, and we will talk to you again soon, very likely this time next week, which is 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you, and have a great rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.